this song for ya.
You're listening to Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast. I will do one episode for each song the band recorded in the studio. However, this is a fan podcast and not band endorsed. It's more of a tribute to their long history, well beyond just the hits, and my way of giving something back to a band that has given so much to me. Let's dig in! Hello and welcome to another episode of Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, bringing you another song from the album Stormbringer. We're on Season 10, Episode 7, Highball Shooter. We're going to get into the song in just a minute, but first, it is Monday. I hope those of you who had your weekend just now had a great time. I have a lot of friends who are musicians who listen to the shows. And, you guys have a different schedule from everyone else. Sometimes you don't have a 2-day in a row off weekend. Your days are split. If you're, like a show performer, sometimes you don't get days off. All kinds of varieties of schedules out there. But I hope you're all doing well, in high spirits while we get into this song. But before we do, I just want to take a moment and say thank you to everyone who has shared the show, follows on the socials, who listens and enjoys the show, but most of all, my patrons. Thank you guys so much. It means a lot that the show means enough to people to actually want to give a little bit back, and I appreciate that even more than just listening, because you're obviously listening too if you think the show's good enough to give me a couple of bucks, and I don't think you wouldn't listen if you felt it was worthy, so thank you for listening as well. At the $5 Money Talks tier, we have William Rose, Corey Morissette, and Nate. So Corey has his podcast, Rock Court, has been just absolutely fantastic to listen to. As I record this, about a week in advance of the show coming out, I am waiting for the final decision of the Hagar versus Roth, who's the better lyricist, first case of Rock Court. And while I actually don't care about the answer because I'm not a fan of Van Halen in the least, I'm really curious to see how this case plays out. It's been fascinating to listen to. Really enjoyed it. A couple of my friends are the attorneys. I've a friend with the judge. Some of the guests. It's not really nepotism though, because I'm not involved in the case anyway. But it's been really interesting to see the battle back and forth, the witness testimony, absolutely fantastic. So go check out Rock Court. Also check out The Power of Positive Geeking. Corey reviews movies with a guest every episode, and he's done some great ones. I was the first guest for the current season, doing Big Trouble in Little China after Corey had come on the Haskincast podcast talking about Glengarry Glen Ross. Both excellent movies and well worth talking about. Had a great time on that show. He's covered a lot of stuff. I hear he has a 2-part episode coming up on Jaws. And for those of you who aren't aware, it is the 50th anniversary already. No, I don't feel old because I saw that movie at the drive-in when it first came out. Of course, I slept through most of it because I was just a wee thing at the time. Woke up at the complete wrong time for a child to wake up in a horror movie, but, doesn't say anything about how my life's gone at all. He also has And the Podcast Will Rock, which is a show that he does with Mark Meyer about Van Halen. And last but not least, the Ultimate Catalog Clash that he does with Kevin Brown, who's got a couple of shows of his own. And they are currently working through the REM catalog, which is going to be very interesting because I know a couple of REM songs, but know very little about them. And then we have Nate, who is the half of the Deep Purple podcast. If you guys aren't listening to the Deep Purple podcast, you are missing out. It is an excellent show. It's been running over 5 years now. They've covered all of Deep Purple's albums. They're doing, albums of the family. They're doing live albums, live shows, all kinds of stuff. A fantastic show to listen to, and John and Nate are great guys. They've been on the show many times. I'm sure you've heard their episodes, so go check out the Deep Purple podcast. Then at the $1 No Need to Shout tier, we have Kai Rune Olsen and Peter Gardeau. Peter has his own podcast called the 70s Weekly Countdown with Mark and Pete, and he and Mark, who have both been guests on the podcast as well, have their show where they pick a week out of the 70s and they talk about all the songs that were in Casey Kasem's countdown back then. Excellent show, comes out once a month, leaves me wanting more every month because I'm so used to podcasts that come out every week, or like my ridiculous schedule, 4 shows a week. But it's great. Check it out. 70s Weekly Countdown with Mark and Pete. And of course, my buddy Kenny Wymore, who has been just a great supporter of the things that I've done. Really appreciate all of you guys. Thank you so much for your support. It really does mean a great deal to me, because when you're doing a podcast with a partner, or like when I have guests on it, you're interacting, you have a conversation. When you do most of your shows alone, a lot of times it just feels like you're talking to the monitor and watching the scroll bar going across as I record into my DAW, which is Cakewalk by BandLab. Been with them since they were owned by 12 Tone Systems back in the 90s. And I've tried Pro Tools. I've tried Digital Performer. I actually like Digital Performer, but big fan of Cakewalk. Well, I guess it's kind of pointless to say, but since I said also, I might as well mention it. I do use Instant Dialogue Cleaner from formerly Audionamics that sold to some company I know nothing about, who apparently isn't doing anything with this product at the moment. So when I have to switch computers, I'm kind of fucked. Not happy about that at all. There was no notification or anything. Very sad the way that loyal customers are treated. No, announcement, change of ownership, follow up with these guys. No, nothing. Really sad the way people choose to do business regardless of their circumstances. I'm very disappointed. But you know what? That's the way it goes. So I'll have to figure it out. I'm playing around with Waves NS1. If anyone has any other suggestions of something that would work like IDC does to that extent, to that quality, let me know. I've not been a huge fan of the NS1 noise suppressor from Waves, but I played with it a little bit. It's working a little bit better than I remember it, but just doesn't have that same trust and quality that I had with Audionamics Instant Dialogue Cleaner. So open to suggestions. If you've got one, let me know. I'd love to hear it. And maybe if there's a demo version, test it out before I lay down a bunch of money on something that isn't going to work. Anyway, back to the show. Today we're talking about the song Highball Shooter. Not going to show my hand on this song at all. Let's just get right into it. Here it is by Deep Purple. This is a great build. I love the way it starts off with just Richie, and then you get a little bit of Ian Pace, and then you get a beat, and then you get double the beat. It's a great build to go into a song. Great way to start it. A little longer of an intro than we've been getting, so that's nice to have a little change of pace there as well. What I'm not liking is just the kick sound, and here it stands out, not isolated, but it's so prominent in the mix that you just hear how dead it is. No reverb on it whatsoever. It's almost like when they sent out the master, they just forgot to turn on the effects. I almost wonder if there wasn't a mistake like that. Like, we hear on Born Again that somebody had, muted something, and that's why the mix sounds the way it does. But it's just, I don't know, it's just too dead and dry for me. For a band that worked so hard to get away from the studio sound, they couldn't get more studio sounding than this album. Of course, David Coverdale in full strength in his voice here. He sounds fantastic. Not really a big fan of the lyrics of this song. They're a little bit high school for me, but that's just me. The topic is one that doesn't really interest me anyway. I don't necessarily think that they're cliche because when this album came out in 1975, trying to, think about what was out and what wasn't then is really difficult to do, but just not really my thing. I'll say that. But musically, this is great. I love that Richie's very active in this song. It seems like it's one that he was feeling, and throws in these nice little parts there to color it up. John is just jamming away on the keyboard. It's an interesting sound. It doesn't quite sound like the normal Hammond that we're used to. Maybe he's playing an octave above. Maybe that's what it is, why it sounds different. But he's having a great jam over there. And the interplay between he and Richie is really good on this song. I forgot to mention in the intro, this part here reminded me of it because, Ian Pace is playing eighth notes on the hi-hat instead of quarters, which I really like. I think it would have been too easy to just play the quarter notes. I think that's probably what he would do now, perhaps. But back then, no, he was playing eighths, and that really keeps the motion going in the song. That we get Glenn in this part playing straight through. So the song's got good pickup to it. I like the tempo of it. Definitely a bluesy rocker, I would say. That's probably how I would categorize it. But either way, it's got a good feel to it. Very energetic vocals from both David and Glenn. And we'll see how we go as we get into the chorus here. Big fan of the brief appearance of the cowbell here. We'll be getting that again later. Don't worry. This is where the lyrics just kind of, I don't know. I don't know what a highball shooter is. I know what a highball is, the drink, but highball shoot, maybe it's a play on that. I don't know, but it just seems a little silly to me. Sure ripped the low ones off me. I don't know, just silly lyrics to me. And again, for me, it's the subject matter. I actually considered doing a Whitesnake podcast because I love so much of their music. But as I was going through Burn, even with songs like Lay Down, Stay Down, I realized that, lyrically, I just don't dig most of their songs. I love the sound of David's voice. I'll sing along to any song he is on happily. But lyrically, I just can't get behind it. And just song after song after song about wanting to get laid, I just couldn't do it. So I'm not doing that podcast as tempting as it is. I've got another one in mind that I plan on doing instead. But so lyrically, again, lyrically not interesting, but vocally the sound of that, especially the way that David and Glenn sound when they sing, because you're a highball shooter, that sounds so good. That I'm a big fan of. Did they just not have enough lyrics that you needed to drag a word out that long? That part's always kind of bothered me. From a performance perspective, it's cool, right? Dig it. Glenn sounds great here. But thinking about writing the lyrics, you've got X amount of space to fill. And we know that the way that Deep Purple wrote, the backing tracks are done first and then they write the lyrics over it. So they know how much space they've got to fill. Could they just not come up with anything? And Glenn's like, I'll just drag this one word out as long as I can, and that'll fill up the space. That's always been a bit of a question for me. Again, Glenn's a good lyricist. David's a good lyricist. Seems like they could have written something that worked a little bit better. Hey, I'm in a band, come out and see me play. I don't know. Again, just a little generic for me. But the sound of it's really good. Also, love that muted strumming that Richie's doing in the left side. And then in the right side, you got John back on that organ, just jamming away again. Love that combination of the two, because John's got the melodic side, Richie's playing something that's more rhythmic than melodic. It sounds really good. Excellent fill in from Richie. I love what he's playing there. But is it just me, or did his guitar sound a little bit like it did on Painted Horse there for some reason? Maybe it's just me, but it sounded like the Painted Horse solo. Anyway, back to the song. Absolutely killer solo from John Lord, and the backing track too behind that supporting him. That's just a party. It sounded great. It had great energy. I can't think of what it reminds me of. The sound of it. I mean, imagine if that was on Burn. Think about how heavy and intense that would sound. Again, the production is dragging it down a little bit for me. But I like what they're playing. I like the fact that Ian Paice didn't follow every time they went da da da. I like that he didn't follow that, and he could have, and it would have just been a little bit, I don't know, too simple, maybe too staccato. Something just wouldn't have worked about that for me. So I like that he chose to play through it and then just touch on it in the last one. I think he did an accent on one of the earlier ones that kind of acknowledged it, but didn't exactly follow it. So it's good to have multiple layers of things to dig into and not have everybody follow the same beat. But yeah, love the solo. If it wasn't for such a great background though, so high energy and so much fun, that I probably would have said was about twice the length the solo needed to be. But because it's such a party behind it, I don't mind it on this song so much. And then we get this great regrouping point that is the only time it's appeared in the song, going into the final verse here. Lots of fun. What a great jam. It's time to leave you, honey. I know you're feeling sad. Don't you cry now, baby. No, that only makes me mad. And I don't like feeling mad. Woo! I see it everywhere I go, every time and place. I can't recall your name, but I know I won't forget your sweet face. I can't forget your face. So it's kind of the same thing with the lyrics here. He's dragging out the words to fill the space. I'm loving the intensity, but if he was saying something, I think that had a little more substance to it, would probably make me a bit happier. But it's just a song about a chick. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. But musically, this is great. Ian Paice opening up a little bit on the hi-hat to bring a little bit more intensity to the final verse here. Really great playing from everybody. Musically, this song is just 2 thumbs up all the way. That is such a great drum fill. Those are so much fun to play, by the way. As a drummer, I can say I really enjoy playing fills like that. especially with a single bass drum, because it's too easy to cheat if you have two bass drums to do that. But here's the thing, again, like this is such a great rocker. If it had the weight of the sound behind it, this would be an absolutely killer tune. It's a great song as it is, but just as dry as it sounds, lacking the power, we don't get the full guitar sound. The guitars, I like the distortion level, but overall the guitars sound a little bit thin. Keyboards are a little bit in the background. It just doesn't have the push behind it that we could use to make this song, so much more powerful. And it all comes down to the sound of the album. I've talked about this. I hate to sound like I beat this horse to death, but maybe I have. And if so, I'm sorry if it's a little too redundant, but of all the songs, it works the least on this song, I think. And Stormbringer and the opening track, I think it would be, again, if you had like more low end pushing it, if you had, that heavier guitar sound that would really bring out the intensity and the depth of the song, I think it would be a much more powerful track. It's something that you hear live. Like if you listen to the Made in Europe version, it's there for sure. Just not on the album. Love the ending. Great rock and roll ending. Sounds a little more like a church organ than a Hammond, though, for me. I think, again, that heavy distorted Hammond would have rocked this song. Drums, again, even, the toms, too, they sound really dry. If you think of, let's say, the end of Flight of the Rat, with the drums, the way that they start off and the way they speed up, like the power in that drum sound is lacking here. And obviously, we've got better technology than we did in 1969 when they recorded in rock. And it's just a poor production choice, I think, for the album overall. Don't know if that could really, well, I suppose it could be fixed, but the expense probably not worth it. I don't have the remastered Stormbringer because there was really nothing extra on it that made me want to purchase it. So just to hear the remix of it, I don't think they would have put in what I'm looking for. So I haven't purchased that yet. Maybe at some point I will, but wasn't really a priority. I was looking for extra material and we didn't really get that, unfortunately. But it's a great song, great rock and roll tune. And I think the writing and the performances are spot on. Absolutely excellent. Would change out the keyboard sound to something a little heavier. And I think that's what I was hearing when I mentioned that John sounded a little bit odd, and maybe it was because he was playing an octave up. I think it's actually more the tone than the octave. The organ sound that he's using here was more of like a church organ than a Hammond. So I think that's what I didn't quite connect with there. But the performance, the jam he was playing in the back, that's just, that rhythm organ style that he developed is fantastic. And it just has to be fun as a keyboard player to do that kind of stuff. Just that left hand, right hand, back and forth. Really lots of fun to play. So great song. This is the last track for me to record for Stormbringer. Gypsy will be up, and then Soldier of Fortune before we wrap up this season. I've already recorded those because I'm holding off on the Monday shows to announce the patrons, just in case there's any new patrons that come along. I want to make sure that I get to them quickly and give them credit and thanks for being a patron. But great album, Stormbringer overall. There was something, though, that I wanted to add real quick to the conversation that Steve and I had, and I had forgotten about this until just a couple of minutes ago. But when Glenn agreed to join the band, he also thought that he was going to be the lead singer. At that time, they didn't really give him the impression, or maybe he just wasn't listening, that they wanted harmonies in that, or he just thought he would be the lead singer and they would have somebody else doing the harmonies with him instead of him being the secondary singer. So that was part of I think what attracted him to the band. But again, I stand by the fact that if you don't like what the band does, why would you join? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So anyway, great song. I hope you guys liked it. Go check it out in its entirety. Enjoy those little snippets of cowbell. That's just like a nice little surprise, like the piece of candy at the end of the aisle. I always like that. I forget that it's in the song. And then when I remember, I'm like, oh yeah, there's just a minimal amount of cowbell, a little bit of color, almost like the way that John would use the synth, where he would sometimes just bring in a synth sound to just add a little bit of a layer, add a different tone to it. I like that. I like that quite a bit, actually. So that is our show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow in the next one for The Gypsy. Cheers. Thanks for listening to Deep Purple Smoke on the Podcast, a tour of the entire Deep Purple studio recordings. Please remember to give the show a rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. Leave a comment and tell your friends. I also have a Patreon set up if you'd like to support the show. You can also write to me at smokeonthepodcast@gmail.com. I hope you enjoyed the episode and thanks for listening.